All right, check, check, radio check. I want to thank everybody for taking times out of your busy schedule to join us this week on this week's chat with Chris. As usual, I would ask for audience participation and typing into chat that you can hear me and see me. Everything's working accordingly, and we'll get started. Perfect. Thank you, Bruce. Good to go. All right. So without further ado, this week I was off last week. I was away, and I'm back. And it's sort of a continuance of 2 weeks ago call where I was just talking about, and some of these slides will be sort of familiar if you were on that call, but we talk about investment strategies, right? And as I go forward, we talked about that there, in the world of investments, there's different types of stocks, and whether it be a growth, a value, or an income, they typically provide different solutions or benefits, right? They're designed to do something differently. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I just felt it was a good premise. So in case you weren't on last week, you get an idea of where I'm trying to go with this call, because really in my career, one of the things that I've learned is that there's really two economic forces that we can participate in. You could be of the philosophy that I want to be all in investments, and that's fine, but there's risks associated with it. First and foremost is longevity risk. I say this when I'm doing a public presentation. You tell me when you're going to die, and I'll tell you what you should do from an investment perspective. I know it sounds morbid, but that's really the truth of it. And then you have something else, and what we're going to talk about today is sequence of return risk, right? So that's on the left side, and then you'll see in that on the left side there's something called the 4% rule. We're going to talk about that, and then we introduce something called actuarial science, right? And that is really taking some of the smartest and brightest people in our society, typically the folks that are engineers, actuaries, right? Statisticians, and they've done extensive research, and really what they're absorbing is that risk, right? And so whether that be we die too soon or we live too long, there's a balance. So it's not that one is better than the other, but we have to go into, and what I share with folks is how can we be more efficient with what we're doing on a go forward. So this I shared with us 2 weeks ago. So this was done by Wade Fowle, Dr. Wade Fowle. And if you look on the numbers on the right side, so there's a blue line at the top 3%, which basically means that as over 30 or 35-year period, what is the probability of portfolio failure, right? Depending on a 50-50 portfolio of stocks and bonds. And you can see there at 30 years, 3%, you're almost at 100% in 30 years. And then, but at 4%, right, we start to fall down to about a 20% risk. And, I equate that if we were to get on a plane in Newark and fly to San Diego, and I told you we have a 80% chance of making it, would anybody on this call get on that plane? Chances are not likely. But let's do a little bit deeper dive and understand how we came to this 4% rule. So William Bangen is a CFP, and in 1994, he pioneered a safe withdrawal rate, and literature did a lot of research on this and use, I think, data over a 50-year period. And then, he introduced that rule, 4% withdrawal rate. And so the executive summary of what that means is a retirement planning rule of thumb that dictates a retiree's withdrawal rate of 4% of their retirement funds in their first year, and remove that dollar amount. So basically we can live on it, adjusted for inflation year after year. That's by Investopedia. So how the 4% rule, it's really easy, right? In the first year of retirement, you can withdraw up to 4%. So if you had $1 million, right, we could spend 40 grand and keep our principal intact. So that sounds awesome. That sounds just like what I wanted to hear, exactly what I was looking for. But does it work, right? So as I went through my all my financial planning studies, and I've been doing this 30 years, but when I was getting my designation, Wade Fowle was my professor at the American College, and his studies and basically all of his research basically challenged the 4% rule and found out emphatically that it actually was wrong. It was actually risky and dangerous for a lot of Americans. And he's put out many papers and studies, but basically just understand, first he was saying 40 grand, but his study, or not him, but Bill Bangan was basically saying 40 grand you could get off $1 million, but his research showed it was more likely to be about 2.5% or 25 grand. And that's a big difference, right? If you retire thinking, hey, I have an income gap of 40,000, but you're only going to be able to withdraw safely 25,000. Well, that's if you're not made aware of it early enough, that just means that your portfolio is going to get consumed along the way, and you're going to find out later on in life that you're out of money. So the purpose of this call today is understanding that if you want to take the left side of the equation of those economic forces and be in the investment arena, I manage assets. It's perfectly fine. I just want everybody on this call to understand the risk. And basically, at a high level, if you want a 4% withdrawal rate, you must have 100% of your retirement assets in the market every day for the rest of your life. And that now starts to create risk on many fronts. But for purposes of today's call and what we talked about last time, if we look at actuarial science and income allocation, we can actually reduce the risk, right, of running our portfolio failure by adding in income annuities. And basically, you're going to see it. This is not an annuity call today. I just want you to understand that it's actually actuarial science. And basically say, I can actually put in less money, half. So let's say on $1 million, if I were to turn around and put in $50,000, you're going to see on my last slide, I'm actually able to double and even go greater than Wade Fowle's projected 2.5, right? I can get at a 62 or 63-year-old a withdrawal rate of 6.7. So you'll see here. But my point is, this is where the efficiency comes in, where if we can safely guarantee, assign that absolute need for income. And remember, there's only 3 places where we can get guaranteed income for life. And that's using the actuarial science side of the equation. That's from a pension, that's from Social Security, and that's from a private annuity, right, or a private pension, right? So if we're looking to take less risk, what this actually allows you to do is shore up the income, but now we can turn around and we can use the portfolio side to actually give us the things in life that we actually want, or maybe participate in the market without the fear of running out of money. So without further ado, what is sequence risk? Sequence risk is the danger that the timing of withdrawals from a retirement account will have a negative impact on the overall rate of return available to the investor. This can have a significant impact on a retiree who depends on the income from a lifetime of investing and is no longer contributing new capital that could offset the losses. Sequence risk is often referred to as sequence of return risk. So withdrawal rates matter, and they are very different from the rate of return, because you would think about it, because that was what basically Bill Bangan was basically saying. Oh, you could just take 4%, even with inflation. If you got 4% on your portfolio, you'll be fine. And that turns out not to be so true. So I've just applied some tools that we have here at Professional Planning Services just to get the concept across to you. If I had $1 million and this person was 60 years or 65 years old, and we withdrew 4% from the portfolio, like we were talking about, we're using the historic markets, right, of the S&P 500 total returns, which includes all the dividends that those stocks throw off. And I started in 1999. I didn't cherry pick this. I figured, let's just use the last 25 years of data to see how this looks. So what this basically says is there's my 40 grand coming out in year one. And notice that the average return of this portfolio over 25 years was 7.31%. So now when we look at that, what does that look like on a graph to say, hey, do we run out of money? And you'll look here, and I don't know if you can see my mouse moving, but we actually portfolio under that circumstance, that scenario, that sequence of return, actually, but this is our baseline, actually ran out at age 96. And somebody might say, hey, I'm good enough, that's close enough, I'm fine. Okay, I'm not here to challenge that. What I wanted to show you, though, is that the calculator that I use, and had I done it live, I just took it, just the next one in line. And now what I did is I shuffled the returns. And this matters because remember, you're going to see here in a second that the rate of return that we got in year one of the portfolio compared that if we had turned around and just got unlucky and we retired right when the market crashed, has a serious negative consequence for people that are unaware. And notice that this portfolio, the green line, runs out at age 81. Could you imagine turning around and retiring at 65, working your whole life, and all of a sudden waking up at 77, and going, oh my God, we're in 10 years, 12 years, 13, 15 years, honey, we're in trouble. This is why I scream this from the rooftops. This is why, most folks that try and do this themselves don't think that they understand investing. And again, I have no problem with somebody, doing it themselves or using, most financial advisors that are just managing assets do not understand the longevity risk or the market risk long term, right? And for whatever reason. So what I show here now is the math behind it. If you turn around at 65, that rate of return in the first year was 21.04%. But just because in this example, the next year was a negative, and this happened, it was actually worse than this in 2008 when the housing bubble burst. So if you shuffle those, when we're withdrawing money, can be like accelerating a snowball on a parking lot in August when it's 100-degree with a hairdryer on it, the evaporation of the asset. And this is evident on the next slide because now it's 79 in this example. By 81, they are out of money. Zero, gone. There's no other choice because we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know what the markets are going to do. And when people step into retirement, if they don't have a pension, they are taking and absorbing all of this risk unknowingly, thinking that everything is going to be okay. And even if I dialed it back, remember, we were getting 7.6. That was a 50-50 portfolio in Wade Fowle's thing. I had 100% of us in the S&P. We can balance that risk and dial it back, and there are things you can do, but I want you to get the concept. And now the next slide, and one of the reasons I'm passionate about having as a part of your overall strategy is an income producing annuity. Now, again, this was not a call to talk about annuities, but I want you to see the withdrawal rate. 6.17 is more than double what Wade Fowle said we could take for this person's only 62. We can assign that risk to insurance companies who are experts in insurance. Right? They're investing in long-term bonds. And as you remember from the call 2 weeks ago, the reason they're able to do this is because of longevity risk and longevity credits, right? That are generated just because it's the complete opposite of life insurance. We all know that with life insurance, if we die, it's not the insurance company that's paying out. They have collected a pool from other people. So let's say 1,000 males, 60 years old, that bought $1 million death benefit, right? That were going to die in the next year. And it's one or two of those people are going to die. Which ones, we don't know. That's how life insurance works. Well, it's a complete opposite on annuities, right? Income annuities, basically, if somebody dies, right, all that's happening is the remainder now gets split amongst the remaining people, and there is no additional risk. So once you understand the actual science behind it and the logic behind it, most people typically want this in their portfolio or in their plan as a part of the solution. So again, that was, I thought it was, overdue. It's been a while since I've talked about sequence of return. Next week, we're going to talk about, I think, market. And then I think the following week, I got an idea that I'm putting together. So I'm going to take us through the next two slides. We have confirmed, and I think our mailing is going out on Monday, the 15th. And, we're doing Rutgers Business School. That is the South Tower. That is this lower building here on the right-hand side. It's the bottom floor. I love that room. And, and basically it's a Saturday morning. It's about 90 minutes. And again, if you've been to it before, great. If you've not been, we encourage you to share this information. Nothing's going to be sold. There's not a registration fee to come, but come learn about having Social Security as a pivotal point of your overall income plan. And remember, retirement is about income. It's not how much money you have, but it's how much money not only to get you to retirement, but through retirement. And that's what we are experts here at Professional Planning Services. So hope to see you soon. Thank you all for joining us. And then again, guys, thank you all.